Caddo Parish, but it's my first one as the guest speaker. So hopefully things will go well and no cadets will pass out. During each observance, I have listened to our guest speaker tell of their service. Today I won't speak of my service, but I will tell you about some of the many extraordinary veterans I have known. These veterans won't have famous names you will recognize, and they didn't consider themselves extraordinary, they just did their duty. Senior Master Sergeant Bill Hayes was an instructor in the Air Force Junior ROTC program at my high school. During my years in JROTC, he didn't speak about his military service. I knew he was a World War II veteran, so one day I asked him where he served. He told me he served in the China-Burma India Theater. What was his duty? He was a weatherman. It was his duty to take atmospheric readings and radio that information to the Army Air Corps headquarters. The mission planners needed to know what the weather would be to plan B-29 bomber missions. Being a weatherman doesn't sound very exciting until you know the rest of the story. He took his weather readings in Manchuria, China, behind the Japanese lines. It seems that the weather system over Manchuria was the weather system that arrived over the Japanese home islands 3 days later. This was the kind of service required before the invention of weather satellites. He asked me if I'd ever heard of John Birch. I told him I'd heard of the John Birch Society. He said that John Birch didn't have anything to do with the society named for him. John Birch was a Baptist missionary in China. He assisted Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle and his raiders to avoid Japanese capture in China after their bombing raid on Tokyo. John Birch was later commissioned as a military intelligence officer in the Army Air Corps. He and his Chinese contacts provided valuable intelligence on Japanese Army units and operations to the Allied forces during the war. The John Birch Society, an anti-communist organization, was named for John Birch because he was killed by the Chinese communists a few days following the end of World War II. Sergeant Hayes said he had been on many patrols with John Birch, and he was glad he wasn't on John's last patrol. The John Birch Society might have been known as the Bill Hayes Society if he was on that last patrol. The next veteran that I remember is Eugene Holmes. He was a colonel and the professor of military science at the University of Arkansas during my freshman year. I never spoke to Colonel Holmes, but I learned of his early Army service. Shortly after his commissioning as an infantry second lieutenant, the Army sent him overseas to the Philippines. He was in the Philippines when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, which brought the United States into World War II. The Japanese attacked the Philippines shortly thereafter.